tagged, helpless and humiliated. Indian students of the Tri-Valley University in California are being treated as criminals rather than victims of a fraud. Adding insult to injury, the US consulate in Hyderabad is trying to pin the blame squarely on the students themselves. In fact, an official from the US consulate went so far so as to say that these tags are fashionable and hip. Would you believe it? With me in the studio, one of India's leading educationists, Professor Arindam Chaudhuri, Dean of the IIPM. Professor Chaudhuri, I come to you first. America wants us to believe it's hip and trendy, right? Lindsay Lohan is doing it, and therefore Alexander and everybody else at Tri-Valley should feel happy about the fact that they're an August company. Is that a ridiculous argument?
Absolutely. The issue is that when an American rapes a girl in Japan, they don't let him being tried in Japan. When an American pilot, by accident kills about 10 people in Italy, they are not allowed to be tried in Italy. There are countries where you've got American soldiers and they can't be tried there. You just see how they treated India in the case of David Headley. So, this is directly something that's discriminatory, and I feel that it should have been handled much more softly, because it's a huge case. These are young boys and girls. These are not deliberately drunken drivers, celebrities who are deliberately non-caring about laws, and them getting a tag on their leg is completely different than many innocent kids getting trapped into a scheme, and then they suddenly finding a band around their neck and walking around.
Professor Chaudhuri, you run a huge institute yourself. People come to you in good faith, hoping that everything is in order. That's why they're signing up with you. How does Alexander or anybody else know that they're going into a completely bogus university? After all, they've got a valid visa from the government of the United States.
Yeah, it's very true, because when the university is in some other country, it's up to the visa authorities to find out whether it's a genuine university or a bogus university. If they've given a visa and the students are going there, then suddenly many of them who are genuine, I mean, there could be some students who actually knew through various forums that this is why we are going to a bogus university. But there would be many students who went there genuinely and they are now stuck and being humiliated. That's most important. And the rule of law, I don't know whether it would have really applied on Chinese students if they would have been in place of Indian students, and whether China then would have protested and Americans would have done the same thing. There's a case of arrogant drunken driving, and this is some people who've just got victimized, so they must be handled sensitively. And even if you have tagged them, if the other government protests, then you respect it. And I'm sure that if it would have been Chinese students, it would have been pretty much different.
Professor Chaudhuri, I'd like you to have the last word. What must happen from here? We can't accept this. What must happen?
I think that the government of India must take a very, very strong stance, because what applies to Americans around the world is what India should want it to apply on them. And of course, we hope that American government really transfers these students to some good university or some similar university, provided these students were also genuine and they deserve that kind of admission. Otherwise, you deport them, but don't humiliate them.
Absolutely. You couldn't have put it better. The tags must come off. The students must be transferred to an alternate university. They can't be treated as criminals if they are victims. That's the most important thing. And India must put pressure. Nirupama Rao is now going to Washington. We'll track this story very, very closely.